Because of course the Royal Navy also operate Harriers, but not this model. This is a GR7 Harrier from number 1 Squadron, based at Cottesmore, because there's a big amalgamation of the and rationalisation of the British Harrier force, because the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy are working closely together. Here we go. Bristol Siddeley Pegasus, 24,000 pounds of thrust. You can see the nozzles have been vectored downwards now, give the vertical component of lift, but not fully down. It's doing a short tactical takeoff. So the aircraft rotating into the air. Well, if nothing else, that takeoff should dry much of the runway. What the Harrier actually did there was a short takeoff rather than a rolling short takeoff, rather than a vertical takeoff. The weight the aircraft can lift in a vertical takeoff is limited, but if a short takeoff distance is available, the nozzles are rotated not to the fully down position, but to a point where it's giving both rearward thrust and downward thrust. And as the aircraft rolls forward and the speed picks up, some lift is generated by the wing. So it can actually get off the ground at a much higher weight than is the case in a truly vertical takeoff. That's generally known as STOVL, short takeoff, but when the munitions have been dispensed with, the fuel has been burned off, the aircraft can then do a vertical landing. This GR7 Harrier is a very different machine indeed from the earlier Harrier Mark 1s. And of course he is even more different from the original Kestrel, or the P1154. One of those machines, the original Kestrels, flown by the Tripartite Evaluation Squadron at West Raynham in Norfolk in the 60s, is still available for viewing in the Science Museum in West Kensington, London. But here we have the very latest Harrier version, much of it made from a composite structure, keep the weight down, and you can see the extended wing compared with earlier Harriers. But once the aircraft is in forward flight, its performance is basically the same as a Hunter. It's not really a supersonic aeroplane because of the very high drag from the intakes, and of course it doesn't have a reheated or afterburning engine. However, what the Harrier does excel at, as well as short and vertical landings, is extreme maneuverability, as the Argentinian daggers found out to their cost in the Falklands conflict. This is created by using the nozzles to vector the thrust in flight. Vectoring the thrust in forward flight, or VIFing, means that the aircraft can suddenly appear to jump sideways, jump upwards. And this caused great problems for the Argentinians, fortunately, during the conflict in the Falklands. A lot of experts, a lot of pundits thought the Harrier would not fare well in the Falklands, particularly in the role it was used in as an interceptor, but this agility allowed it to score a large number of kills. And the other thing which the Harrier has is noise in abundance. It must be one of the noisiest aircraft flying. Harrier is powered by a Bristol Siddeley Pegasus engine, which is a very large bypass engine, and the thrust from the engine is deflected by 4 nozzles, 2 forward, 2 aft on the fuselage, and there are also little puffer jets in the wingtips, the tail and in the nose, which control the aircraft in the hover. Here we see the Harrier coming in for a high-speed run, probably well over 500 knots now, probably 550 knots, Mach 0.95. Huge rate of climb when pulling out from that high-speed pass. You can see a very characteristic anhedral wing too. And the GR7 actually has the outrigger wheels at not quite midpoint in the wing, but you can see them in profile there. The original Harriers actually had the outriggers right on the wingtip, but the GR7 and the GR5 have the outriggers mounted approximately 2/3 along the span on the trailing, as you can see them retracted on the trailing edge. The main landing gear is a dual wheel mounted well aft on the centre line of the fuselage and one nose wheel. And here we see the aircraft slowing down with the gear extended, and the nozzles are being moved progressively forward to slow the aircraft and to produce the lift to counterbalance the reduction in lift from the wing. More and more power being applied, nozzles coming further and further forward. Into the hover, into the wind. Now gently reversing. Don't see this too often. We can see very clearly the downward vector jet exhaust. There's the power coming in again. A lot of it too. There's a lot of thrust out of this engine. Thrust increasing virtually all the way till the aircraft touches the ground. As the speed slows down, the lift lost by the wing has to be replaced by vertical thrust. As the aircraft touches, the throttle can be closed and the aircraft rolls forward. You can actually swing the nozzle slightly forward to produce an even shorter landing than we saw there, but that does risk ingestion into the intakes and possible damage to the engine.